Chance Campbell is a better roster candidate than many people realize.
Yeah, don't sleep on Chance now. You guys, when you make your list out there. We like Chance. Chance is a good football player. You know, had some injuries earlier in his career that, set him back. But since the day we picked him up last year, he's shown that he's a football player, and we like him.
Don't let his arm length fool you. Certainly, he doesn't have the longest arms in the league, but he might just be one of the quickest linebackers in the league.
Brandon Allen, here comes the extra blitzers.
The measurements certainly tell you a story. He actually has pretty good size profile for the height and the weight standpoint, right? 6'2"-ish, 230 to 240, depending on when and where he was measured, to be honest, guys. But the arm reach in itself is a little short of what the NFL average is, and to be quite honest, it's probably not what you would expect given his size profile at 31.25 inches. That's going to cause some concerns about stacking and shedding blockers at the second level. However, with all that said, from my eyes, what the tape showed me, this is still a player worth spending time trying to develop. All Chance Campbell has done since arriving in Philadelphia last August, remember guys, he came in late into the process in August of 2025.
Interesting, last year we picked him up the last week of the preseason game, and I don't remember the exact date. It was just a few days before the game, and he didn't need that acclimation period.
You said before that your preference at off-ball is to...
All he's done is catch the coach's eyes. Not to mention, he kind of reminds me of a linebacker that we rostered formerly that came out of the draft right around the same time and came here as a UDFA out of Michigan State, that once upon a time was a running back who converted to linebacker, but also had this really twitchy straight line speed and crazy athleticism. And when he got into games, even as a linebacker, it made people go, that young man can read it and get to the football. He kind of has a little BVS to his game. There's a little Ben Van Sumeren to Chance Campbell's game. All right, guys, let's get down to it. Let's break down some linebacker play, and let's talk a little about Chance Campbell. And if he can kind of do the thing that, he really shouldn't be able to do. Can he convince the coaches to keep a fifth linebacker, because there's a fear of missing out with this player? Let's get it. I think the first thing that has to be stated when we're talking about Chance Campbell is the fact that he does have familiarity with the coaching staff. We know that Vic Fangio, gets a lot of credit, a lot of pats on the back for the fact that Vic came up in the league as a linebacker coach himself, right? Vic Fangio, once upon a time, actually coached the Dome Patrol down there in New Orleans in the early 90s. And then he also went to Carolina with Sam Mills and a lot of those guys. And Vic's kind of known a little bit as the linebacker whisperer. But I think one name that often gets left out of the conversation when we're discussing this defense and just how good the quality of coaches are on the defense, we often forget about Bobby King. And no, I'm not referring to the guy from King of the Hill. I'm referring to Bobby King, our linebacker coach, who once upon a time was in Tennessee, and he was in Tennessee when they drafted a young man in the 6th round named Chance Campbell, a truly, truly athletically gifted player that was a little bit of an odd, weird kind of physical linebacker to evaluate. I will say why I brought up BVS, and I think from the physical traits and some of the actual athletic traits, you could see some BVS to his game. They're both around 6'2". They both were around 230-some pounds. They both had 31-inch arm reach, and they both put up some tremendous numbers. BVS slightly more athletic, but both of these guys fairly, athletically gifted players, to be honest. When I put on the tape and I'm actually watching this young man play football, Chance Campbell, there are also some times where I see a more jacked up, a more twitched up, a faster, but maybe a tick slower in the processing, but still in the same category of linebacker as a Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And then also kind of in that same category as a Nakobe Dean.
All starts with the experiential intuition. I mean, we can't forget that,
This is a downhill attacker. This guy wants to come and get physical at the point of attack with you. This is a young man that, yes, you're always going to have concerns about linemen climbing to the second level and his ability to stack them and shed them. For sure. Like those 31-inch arm reach guys, it's always going to be a concern when a dude that's, 100 pounds more than you is climbing to the second level and putting hands on you who also has 3 or 4 inches more of arm reach. Even an inch more of arm reach, it's still mathematically a bit of a problem there. Sure, there's no doubt about that. But the way that the Eagles scheme is kind of predicated on, especially when you watch some of like Chance Campbell's reps against teams that were running some of the like wide zone stuff and kind of the way that he was able to diagnose what was happening, be able to play off of his interior defensive lineman and shoot the gaps and shut that shit down. Yeah, I mean, there's a little Nakobe Dean. There's a little Jeremiah Trotter Jr. to his game. I don't know that his instinct levels are quite to that level, but I also think he's a little bit better of an athlete, so what he lacks maybe in the subtleties of the instincts kind of gets made up a little bit by the athletic profile, to be honest. Like, this is a guy that I wouldn't feel like, oh, crap, we're doomed if he has to play a game or two for us. Now, look, I mean, if you got to put this guy out there for 17 weeks, NFL defenses are NFL defenses and coaches are coaches. They're going to find what your weakness is, and they're going to eventually try to attack you on it. It's only a matter of time before they figure that out. But I do think as a stopgap measure, at the bottom of what we're evaluating here, is a stopgap measure, a guy who can play, be a really big contributor to your special teams, be a core, kind of component there, and also be serviceable if you ever had to fill in for a game or two. Yeah, I like Chance Campbell in that role. I think Chance Campbell's kind of a little bit of an unheralded, a little bit of an unknown player. I definitely think the Eagles have a few of these guys on their roster, and I really love the way that they kind of shape the back end of things because they got 6, 7 guys that I could kind of bring up before the start of the season, before we make decisions on the ultimate 53-man roster, and we learn who's going to be carried on the practice squad to add to like the active 69, 70 if you add in the, you can kind of end in that 70th player if you're talking about the international pathway, and if they utilize that with Waru or with Uar, they have 2 guys that could potentially use that designation with. But you get what I'm saying? Like, there's some guys on this roster that they deserve a little bit of attention. And I think Chance Campbell is definitely one of those players, man. I think this is a guy that should definitely be talked about more than what he is, to be quite honest. In this clip right here, guys, you have Chance Campbell kind of playing as a will linebacker or towards the field side. I want to show you this because it's going to give you an indication of his movement skills a little bit. You're going to see the center and the right guard are going to work a combo block, and then the right guard's going to reach up to him. And I just want you to watch as he gets reached at that next level, how he responds to that.
Shanker, who's a tight end who lines up in front of Bigsby. He has the first down. Bulls is.
I wanted to run that one play from his college tape where he was playing basically Auburn just because I thought it was a nice example to show him having an offensive lineman climb to the second level. And I don't think that he like strongly stacked and shed the player, but he kept his balance when being contacted, stayed into the play. And what was his reward, guys, for doing all that? His reward was Tank Bigsby crashing into him. Like, I thought it was just a unique example to show you guys there to be like, oh, like this is a unique moment to show kind of something we're talking about, which is, how can he stack and shed with 31-inch arms? Like what does the tape show you on that? And then also just a unique moment to show a guy that we know plays physical, is a very physical back in Tank Bigsby. In this clip right here, guys, you have Chance Campbell kind of playing as a will linebacker or towards the field side. I want to show you this because it's going to give you an indication of his movement skills a little bit. You're going to see the center and the right guard are going to work a combo block, and then the right guard's going to reach up to him. And I just want you to watch as he gets reached at that next level, how he responds to that.
Shanker, who's a tight end who lines up in front of Bigsby. He has the first down. Bulls is.
It's nice to see these kind of things line up on the tape and be able to present it to everybody. Like, this is definitely like, I was like, oh, this is a pretty cool moment. I want to mark this for everyone. All right, guys, with that said, I think the young man has a shot, man. I think you have to kind of construct your roster. You got to think that, look, best case scenario, you can keep 51 players and you can leave your long snapper off, right? You can do some roster tango with that. Maybe you use the long snapper for a few weeks coming off your practice squad as a call-up, and then you got to eventually add them to the roster, but that gives you some weeks to then remove a guy from the active 53 down to the practice squad in lieu of doing all that. You could play that kind of roster tango game. But, I mean, you do got to discuss, like, who the players are, because the Eagles have quite a few guys who are deserving of roster spots this year. This is a really damn good team. I actually think that, from the second unit coming out there, when we get into, like, the second unit playing football, I don't know how good the third unit's going to be. I am excited to see a few guys on that third unit, but I think the second unit in particular could be quite good offensively and defensively in this preseason game, which, sometimes that's not always the case in preseason, and it's like, oh my God, I got to watch this. Like, I'm dying here. This is terrible football. But I don't think that's the case this year with the Eagles. And I think part of that is because players like Chance Campbell give you something to evaluate, give you something to consider. All right, guys, if you like this type of content and you want me to kind of, produce more content like this, or you're like, hey, what else is, do you got floating out there that you could show us about? I'll throw you up a video right here that kind of goes over, something like a roster kind of breakdown, or even like a player kind of breakdown, kind of give you an idea of what I think about it, someone that's maybe a little unheralded on this team. And then over here, I'll throw you up something that has to do something more with scheme and, kind of like what we can expect from the X's and O's into the 2026 season. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you so much for all you guys that are liking, commenting, and subscribing on the videos. It is greatly appreciated, guys. Y'all are awesome for doing that. And then also to all y'all hitting that hype button, hey, thank you, guys. I know you only get so many of those to use per week, so if you're choosing to spend those on this channel, hey, man, I appreciate y'all. Y'all are actually a supporter of the channel, and, my gratitude is to you guys. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all so much, guys. I'll see y'all on the next video.